Part 1, The Warning Nobody Believed. The General's Desperate Plea. Commander Zara Voss sat in the observation deck of the Imperial Command Station, watching the stars blur past as her consciousness replayed the events of the previous cycle. She had been a decorated officer of the Krillian Empire for 30 standard years, leading campaigns across 17 sectors, and not once had she felt genuine fear. Until 3 weeks ago, when her patrol fleet encountered the humans. The memory burned in her mind like acid. Her ships had entered the Sol System's edge, a routine survey mission to catalog the primitive species that had just achieved basic space flight. The protocols were simple: observe, assess technological level, and report back. If the species showed promise, they would be offered a choice to join the Empire peacefully. If they refused or showed hostility, a demonstration of power usually convinced them otherwise. It had worked on 43 different species without significant resistance. But the humans were different. Zara's 6 eyes closed briefly as she remembered. Her science vessel had been monitoring Earth's communications, studying their languages and culture, when a small human patrol craft detected them. The craft was laughably primitive, using chemical propulsion and basic fusion reactors. It should have been no threat whatsoever. Yet when her ship failed to respond to their hailing frequencies, the humans had done something unexpected. They attacked. The human craft had fired a kinetic weapon, a simple metal slug accelerated to high velocity. It should have bounced harmlessly off her ship's shields. Instead, the slug was coated in something that destabilized the energy matrix, causing a cascade failure. Before her crew could respond, the humans had fired 7 more rounds, each one targeting a different system on her ship with impossible precision. Her weapons array, her communications relay, her maneuvering thrusters, all disabled in under 30 seconds. Then the humans had simply left. No demands, no communication, just a demonstration that they could hurt her ship and chose to let it survive. Zara had limped back to Imperial space with her tail between her legs, metaphorically speaking, since her species had no tails. Now she stood before the High Council, preparing to deliver a warning she knew they would not want to hear. The Council's blind confidence. The Council chamber of the Krillian Empire was a masterpiece of engineering. Constructed from crystallized dark matter, it floated in the void between dimensions, accessible only through quantum gates. The 12 High Council members sat in their designated positions, each representing one of the founding species of the Empire. At the center floated Chancellor Thyros, his gaseous form contained within a sphere of hardened light. Zara stood before them, her military uniform pressed and perfect, though her hands trembled slightly. She activated the holographic display and began her report. The images showed Earth, a blue and green world teeming with life, then zoomed to show human cities, their technology, their military capabilities. Esteemed Council members, I bring urgent news regarding the species known as humans in Sector 7749. Chancellor Thyros's voice echoed through the chamber like distant thunder. Commander Voss, your preliminary report suggested this species had barely achieved basic spaceflight capability. Why does this warrant an emergency council session? Zara took a deep breath, all 3 of her lungs filling with the chamber's atmosphere. Because, Chancellor, I believe this species represents a significant threat to the Empire if we attempt to incorporate them through standard procedures. A murmur of disbelief rippled through the council. Councillor Rax, a towering insectoid being with 4 arms and compound eyes, clicked his mandibles in what Zara recognized as amusement. Commander, you are a respected officer, but surely you overestimate a species that cannot even travel faster than light. Our preliminary scans showed they use primitive chemical and nuclear weapons. What possible threat could they pose? Zara changed the holographic display to show footage from her encounter. They destroyed my science vessel's operational capabilities in 30 seconds using kinetic weapons we considered obsolete 10,000 years ago. But that is not what concerns me most. She pulled up data files she had recovered from Earth's communication networks. I spent 3 weeks studying everything we could intercept about human culture, history, and psychology. What I discovered terrifies me. The hologram shifted to show human historical battles, wars that had consumed their entire planet. Images of ancient warriors fighting with primitive weapons, medieval armies clashing in massive formations, mechanized warfare from their industrial age, and finally nuclear explosions that could vaporize cities. In the last 200 of their years, humans have fought in over 400 major conflicts. They have killed approximately 500 million of their own species in warfare. They have developed weapons capable of rendering their planet uninhabitable, built enough of them to destroy themselves multiple times over, and the only reason they have not used them is the certainty that their enemies would retaliate. Counselor Mira, whose crystalline form refracted light into rainbow patterns, spoke up. This only demonstrates they are violent and self-destructive. Many primitive species go through such phases before achieving maturity. You misunderstand, Counselor, Zara said firmly. They are not self-destructive. They are adaptable beyond any species we have encountered. In those same 200 years, they went from wooden sailing ships to faster-than-light experimentation. From basic arithmetic to artificial intelligence that rivals our own computational systems. From believing their world was flat to mapping their entire galaxy. She pulled up more data, her voice growing more urgent. But it is not their technology that frightens me. It is their psychology. Humans have a survival mechanism in their biology called the stress response. When threatened, their bodies flood with chemicals that enhance their physical capabilities, suppress pain, and override logical thinking. I have reviewed footage of human soldiers continuing to fight after sustaining injuries that would kill any member of our species. They do not simply endure pain, they weaponize it. The evidence nobody wanted. Zara showed the council footage she had recovered from Earth's entertainment networks. Movies, television shows, books, all depicting humans in impossible situations choosing to fight rather than surrender. This is their culture, their mythology, their aspirational stories. Every single one revolves around individuals or small groups defeating overwhelming odds through determination and sacrifice. She highlighted specific examples. They have a historical event they call Thermopylae, where 300 soldiers held a mountain pass against an army of hundreds of thousands. They all died, and they knew they would die, but they fought anyway because it would buy time for others to prepare. This is not an anomaly in their history. It is celebrated, taught to their children, held up as an ideal. The hologram showed more human warfare, focused on their most recent conflicts. In their last major planetary war, a single city was bombed continuously for over 800 days. The defenders never surrendered. When the war ended, there was not a single building standing intact, yet humans were still fighting in the rubble. They have a word for this: resilience. It means the capacity to recover from difficulties, but for humans, it means something more. It means never accepting defeat, no matter the cost. Counselor Thax, a reptilian being covered in thick scales, leaned forward with interest. Commander Voss, while fascinating, this is historical data. Surely a species that has nearly destroyed itself in warfare would welcome the stability and peace the Empire offers. We have incorporated hundreds of warrior species. All eventually accepted that cooperation brings greater prosperity than conflict. Zara felt her frustration rising but kept her voice level. Respectfully, Counselor, you are applying our logic to a species that does not think like us. I accessed their philosophical and political writings. They have a concept they call liberty, which they value more than survival itself. They have multiple sayings that express this: give me liberty or give me death, I would rather die on my feet than live on my knees, the tree of liberty must be refreshed with the blood of patriots. She paused, letting the translations sink in. These are not fringe beliefs. These are foundational principles of their major civilizations. They teach this to their children. They encode it in their laws. They build statues to people who died fighting for freedom rather than accepting subjugation. The hologram shifted again, showing human biological data. There is more. Humans are what we would classify as a death world species. Their planet has gravity 1.4 times standard. Their atmosphere has an oxygen content that would be toxic to most of us. Their world is geologically active with regular earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, and violent storms. It has extreme temperature variations that would kill most known species. And yet humans have spread across every environment on their planet, from frozen Arctic regions to burning deserts, from high mountains to deep oceans. Zara pulled up evolutionary data. They evolved not as apex predators, but as persistence hunters. They are not the strongest or fastest species on their world. Instead, they evolved to chase their prey for days until it collapsed from exhaustion. They evolved to never give up, because giving up meant starvation. This is coded into their very biology. The choice. Chancellor Thyros's voice cut through the chamber. Commander Voss, your research is thorough, and your concerns are noted. However, the Empire cannot allow a single species to remain outside our jurisdiction simply because they are resilient warriors. Many species have resisted incorporation initially. All eventually joined the Empire. What makes you believe humans are different? Zara knew this was her last chance to make them understand. She pulled up the final piece of evidence she had saved, footage from the human patrol craft that had disabled her ship. The video showed the bridge of the human vessel, a cramped space with primitive controls and visible repair patches on the walls. The crew was young, barely into adulthood by human standards. This is the captain of the craft that defeated my science vessel, Zara said. The hologram focused on a young human female with dark skin and bright eyes, wearing a uniform that looked utilitarian rather than ceremonial. Her name is Lieutenant Maya Rodriguez. She is 23 standard years old. This was her first patrol mission beyond Earth's immediate orbit. The council members leaned forward, watching the footage. The human officer was speaking to her crew, her voice steady despite visible damage to her ship from Zara's initial defensive response. "All right team, we hit them hard and they are not responding to hails. That means they are either regrouping or calling for backup. Either way, we cannot stick around. Set course back to Luna Station and transmit everything we recorded. Command needs to know we are not alone out here anymore." One of her crew members, a young male, spoke up with fear in his voice. "Captain, what if they come back with more ships? What if they attack Earth?" The human captain smiled, and there was no fear in her expression, only determination. "Then we will be ready. We have been preparing for this possibility since we found the ruins on Mars. Humanity did not come this far by running away from threats. We face them, we adapt, and we overcome. That is what we do. That is what we have always done." Zara paused the footage. "Do you see? This is not bravado or ignorance. This is genuine belief. They know they are outmatched. They know we have superior technology. And they do not care. They will fight anyway because fighting is preferable to submission." She closed the holographic display and addressed the council directly. "I recommend we designate the human system as a protected observation zone. We should monitor their development but not interfere. Give them time to mature, to join the galactic community on their own terms. Because if we try to force them, if we send a fleet to demand their surrender, they will fight. And even if we win, the cost will be catastrophic." The council chamber fell silent for a long moment. Finally, Chancellor Thyros spoke. "Your recommendation is noted, Commander Voss. However, the council has already discussed this matter. We cannot show weakness by avoiding a single primitive species. Fleet Admiral Corvin has volunteered to lead an incorporation mission. He will take a standard diplomatic fleet of 300 vessels to Sol System. They will offer humanity a choice, join the Empire peacefully or face the consequences." Zara felt her heart sink, all three of them dropping in her chest. "Chancellor, please reconsider. Admiral Corvin is a capable officer, but he has never encountered a species like humanity. The standard approach will not work. They will see our fleet as an invasion force, not a diplomatic mission. Then they will learn the cost of refusing the Empire's generous offer, Counselor Rack said dismissively. 300 ships should be more than sufficient to intimidate a species with fewer than 50 operational spacecraft. This discussion is concluded. Commander Voss, you will return to your post and await new orders. Zara saluted, the military protocol overriding her desire to argue further. As she turned to leave, she took one last look at the council members. They sat in their positions of power, confident in the Empire's superiority, certain that this would be another routine incorporation. They had no idea what they were about to face. As Zara walked through the quantum gate back to her ship, she made a decision. She would not participate in this invasion. She had seen something in those human eyes, in Lieutenant Rodriguez's determination, that reminded her why she had joined the military in the first place. Not to conquer and subjugate, but to protect and serve. The Empire was about to make a terrible mistake, and Zara refused to be part of it. She sent an encrypted message to her family, telling them to prepare for her resignation from military service. Then she sent another message, this one on an unsecured channel that she knew Earth's monitoring stations would pick up. It contained everything she had learned about the coming invasion, the fleet composition, the timeline, and a simple warning, prepare yourselves, they are coming, and they underestimate you badly. Back on Earth, Lieutenant Maya Rodriguez received the transmission at Luna Station. She read it 3 times, then forwarded it directly to Earth Defense Command with a simple note attached, the General was right to be scared, we need to be ready. Humanity had exactly 6 months before Admiral Corvin's fleet would arrive. 6 months to prepare for a war they could not possibly win through conventional means. But humans had never been conventional, and they had spent their entire history finding ways to defeat impossible odds. This time would be no different.